God's story. Peter. So part of God's story is about a guy named Peter, and it goes like this. Peter, who was also called Simon, lived in Capernaum, where he worked as a fisherman. One day, Jesus came up and told him to go into deep water to fish. When Peter obeyed Jesus, he caught so many fish that his boat began to sink. Peter fell at Jesus' feet with amazement. Then Jesus said, "From now on, you will be catching men." Basically, now that Peter followed Jesus, he could help other people follow Jesus too. After that, Peter and the disciples followed Jesus everywhere. They got to see miracles, hear about the kingdom of heaven, and see what God was like by spending time with his son. Like one night, when the disciples left in a boat ahead of Jesus. Later, Jesus joined them by walking out across the sea. It was dark and stormy, so the disciples thought he was a ghost. Jesus said, "It's me." Peter actually stepped out of the boat to go to Jesus, which means he walked on top of the water too. But as soon as he saw the waves, he got scared and started to sink. Jesus caught him and said, "Why did you doubt me?" See, he wanted Peter to trust him even when it made no sense. After all, God is powerful and controls everything. When Jesus climbed into the boat, the disciples worshiped him. But some people did not believe Jesus is God's son, even after seeing his miracles or hearing about the amazing things he did. In fact, they got so mad that Jesus said he's God's son that they had him arrested. Well, even though Peter followed Jesus, he wasn't perfect. So when he realized he could get in trouble just for following Jesus, he pretended he didn't even know him. In one night, he told 3 different people that he didn't know Jesus at all. What's amazing is that Jesus had told Peter he was going to deny him 3 times. That means Jesus knew Peter would mess up, and he loved him anyway. And guess what? Jesus feels the same way about us. He told Peter to keep right on following him, and he did. Peter was there when Jesus was killed, when he came back to life, and when he rose straight up into the sky into heaven. Jesus gave Peter and the other disciples a special message before he left. He said, "The Holy Spirit will come upon you and give you power. Then you will tell everyone about me in Jerusalem, in all Judea, in Samaria, and everywhere in the world." It's actually a message for all Jesus' followers, which means you and me. Anyway, Peter and the others were waiting for the Holy Spirit together in Jerusalem when a sound like wind came from heaven. Flames landed on their heads. Then they were filled with the Holy Spirit, who helps us do things we can't do by ourselves. Right away, the Holy Spirit helped them do miracles. More than 3,000 people chose to follow Jesus that day. Peter and the others who believed in Jesus took care of each other and people in need. Every day, new people saw the way they loved each other and chose to follow Jesus and be part of God's family too. And no matter what happened, even when life got hard, the disciples kept following Jesus. And because they bravely told more and more people about Jesus, we get to know about Jesus and follow him today. And that's the story of Peter. So, in case you missed it, here's the quick version. Peter was a fisherman. He followed Jesus. He showed others how to follow Jesus. Peter saw Jesus was God's son. Jesus helped him walk on water. Peter messed up. Jesus loved him anyway. Peter kept following Jesus and sharing him with others. The Holy Spirit came. Lots of people started following Jesus. News of Jesus spread. We can follow him today. And that's a part of God's story.